Ethan. For 10 long years that name had echoed silently in the chambers of my heart, a love I nurtured in secret. Then one unbelievable day he kissed me. It happened under the soft glow of a street lamp after a late study session, a moment I'd replayed in my mind countless times. But the magic shattered. Instantly. As his lips met mine, a surge of euphoria washed over me, quickly followed by a cold dread. Because as he held me close, lost in the moment, he whispered the wrong name. Olivia. My heart plummeted. Olivia. His ex-girlfriend. Even though he eventually somehow became my boyfriend, the joy was tainted. That kiss, the supposed start of something, felt like a lie I carried alone. He remained blissfully unaware of the devastating mistake he'd made. Unaware that our beginning was built on the ghost of someone else. Our relationship weathered a year of long distance before I finally made the move to Beijing. 6 months into sharing his small apartment, my world tilted again. A text. Message from an unknown number buzzed on my phone, stark against the screen. Want to know where Ethan really goes after work? Come to room 201 Jinghua Palace on CG Road. I had just finished recording an interview, my microphone suddenly feeling heavy, almost slipping from my numb fingers. A familiar knot of dread tightened in my chest, a suffocating rope squeezing the air from my lungs. My hand trembled as I tried calling Ethan, hoping for a simple explanation. Anything to quell the rising panic. Straight to voicemail. It wasn't entirely surprising. He'd been coming home increasingly late recently. Vague distance in his eyes. Conversations often trailing off with unspoken thoughts. What could he possibly be doing that required such secrecy? The moment my workday ended, I hailed a taxi, the address burning in my mind. My heart hammered against my ribs like a frantic drumbeat throughout the entire ride. The city lights blurring past the window. I felt ridiculous, a cliché, the suspicious girlfriend playing detective, bracing herself for the worst. Yet, as I stood before the ornate door of room 201, all my rehearsed anger dissolved, replaced by a hollow vulnerability. Taking a shaky breath, I pushed the door open. The private dining room was large, dominated by a round table where about 10 people were laughing and chatting, glasses clinking. They were Ethan's university classmates from his time in Beijing, faces I mostly recognized from photos and past gatherings. My eyes scanned the room, landing on Ethan, and then my breath caught. Seated right beside him, illuminated by the soft lighting, was Olivia. The legendary campus beauty queen. The girl who had reigned supreme during their university days. Ethan's ex-girlfriend. If I was Ethan's devoted follower, a doormat as my friend Maya sometimes teased, then Ethan had been Olivia's super doormat. Our methods differed, but in terms of sheer dedication and seniority and unrequited pining, we were both veterans. The situation was a painfully perfect cliché. The current girlfriend, uninvited and unexpected, stumbling upon the boyfriend casually attending a reunion with his radiant ex. An abrupt silence fell over the room. 10 pairs of eyes swiveled towards me, their gazes pinning me in the doorway. Goosebumps prickled my skin under the weight of their collective stare. It felt like a public execution of my dignity, a truly monumental social death. After 30 seconds of suffocating silence, it wasn't my boyfriend, Ethan, who spoke first. It was Olivia, her voice smooth as silk. "Chloe, you're here. Come sit down." She gestured vaguely towards an empty chair, already reaching for her designer handbag. Actually, I was just about to leave. Something came up. With a practiced grace, Olivia rose and walked towards the door. And Ethan? My boyfriend? He didn't offer me an apology, not even a glance of reassurance. Instead, his attention immediately followed his lost love. "Olivia, wait up," he called, already moving to follow her out. They both brushed past me in the doorway, their focus entirely on each other, as if I were nothing more than a piece of furniture, invisible. I stood there, frozen, feeling like the punchline to a cruel joke. The heat rushed to my face, and I desperately wished the polished floor would swallow me whole. I was supposed to be the girlfriend, the rightful partner. Why did I suddenly feel like the intruder, the unwelcome third wheel? Just as I was debating whether to flee or somehow melt into the wallpaper, Ethan returned. He looked at me, his expression unreadable, almost indifferent. "Let's eat," he said flatly. "Oh," was all I could manage, my voice small. It was an unforgettable meal, for all the wrong reasons. The gathering, I gathered from the strained conversation, was meant to welcome Olivia back from overseas. The guest of honor had left. because of my arrival, yet there I sat, awkwardly placed in the main guest's vacant seat, forcing down food that tasted like cardboard, each bite a struggle against the lump in my throat. Ethan and I grew up as neighbors. During my childhood, I spent countless afternoons trailing behind him like a shadow. My mother, bless her heart, believed in healthy eating, which translated to overfeeding me throughout elementary school. I grew plump, developing a wobbly run that made the other kids in our apartment complex point and laugh. They called me names mocking my weight. Only Ethan never joined in. One particularly painful afternoon, their taunts about me being fat and ugly, like a little pig, reduced me to tears. Ethan heard them. Without hesitation, he marched over to the ringleader, a boy slightly bigger than him, and punched him squarely on the jaw. He forced the stunned boy to apologize to me. In that moment, standing tall with his fists clenched, Ethan wasn't just the boy next door. He was my hero, my knight in shining armor. But Ethan was truly renowned in our community for his stellar grades. He was the quintessential other people's child, the benchmark against which all other kids were measured. My own math scores, hovering dangerously near failure since middle school, were a constant source of anxiety from my mother. Desperate, she practically begged Ethan to tutor me. For 3 years he patiently guided me through equations and theorems, his presence a calming influence. This continued until he left for Shanghai, accepted into a prestigious engineering university. With such a shining example before me, I felt a surge of determination. Fueled by his occasional phone calls checking on my progress, monitoring the results of his excellent tutoring, he'd joke, I studied relentlessly. When high school graduation came, I managed the seemingly impossible. I got accepted into the same university. My secret 16-year goal of attending the same school was finally achieved. In those years, too young to truly understand the complexities of love, I simply saw Ethan as brilliant, kind, and protective, offering the comforting presence of an older brother. Before I left for Shanghai, my mother pulled me aside, her expression conspiratorial. Chloe, she whispered, university is about 2 things, getting your degree and getting Ethan. I blushed furiously. Mom, how did you know about my crush? She rolled her eyes dramatically. Please, you're a literature major applying to an engineering school? It wasn't exactly subtle. Armed with my 4-year Ethan KPI, I set off, practically floating with the anticipation of seeing him every day. Stepping off the plane in Shanghai, the first person I saw was Ethan, waiting right there on the platform. I gaped at him. How did you get onto the platform? Airport security was usually strict. He just grinned and gently tapped my forehead. Wouldn't want my little scatterbrain getting lost, would I? His expression was so full of playful affection it made my heart do a dangerous flip. It was moments like that effortless charm that made it impossible not to fall deeper. I truly believed we had something special back then. We were inseparable. We studied together in the cavernous library, hung out with mutual friends, attended parties. When he played basketball, I was always courtside with water and a towel, ready to wipe the sweat from his brow. If it rained and I forgot my umbrella, he'd materialize outside my classroom, seemingly out of nowhere, umbrella held high. There was another guy, someone from my department, who started pursuing me quite persistently. For a while, he'd wait outside my dormitory every evening. But my heart and mind were already completely occupied by Ethan. There was simply no room for anyone else. One evening the guy got a bit too insistent, grabbing my arm. Suddenly Ethan appeared, his face thunderous. He shoved the guy back, landing a solid punch. Stay away from our Chloe, he warned, his voice low and dangerous. Then he took my hand, his grip firm, and pulled me away, leaving the other guys sputtering behind us. Almost all our friends assumed we were a couple. They'd tease us, and Ethan would just smile, never denying it. But the official declaration, the confession I yearned for, never came. One night at a boisterous party, fueled by liquid courage, I finally broke. I threw my arms around his neck, my voice trembling slightly. Ethan, don't be my brother anymore. Be my boyfriend. He froze. For a moment, his eyes flickered with something unreadable, surprise, maybe discomfort. Then his gaze shifted away. Gently but firmly, he disentangled my arms from his neck. Chloe, he said softly, avoiding my eyes. I already like someone. That night, the rain lashed against my dorm window, mirroring the storm inside me. The wind felt chillingly cold. I curled up in bed and cried like a child, the Heartbreak raw and overwhelming. Ambiguity, I realized bitterly, is love's cruelest trick. If he had truly felt something more, he would have said so long ago. I stumbled through the next month in a daze, feeling numb and adrift. Then, reality delivered another brutal blow. At Ethan's birthday party, he formally introduced his girlfriend, Olivia. Standing next to her, I felt utterly inadequate, like a plain, clumsy duckling beside a radiant swan. She was breathtakingly beautiful, exuding an effortless elegance and confidence. Seeing them together, it felt undeniably right. She was the perfect match for Ethan. Later I heard the whispers. Ethan had apparently been secretly in love with Olivia for a long time. She had recently broken up with her previous boyfriend, and that's when Ethan finally made his move. They had gotten together just before my drunken confession, and I, lost in my own hopeful bubble, hadn't noticed a thing. So this was the fate of the backup plan? Seeing the person you've loved for so long happy with someone else. The mature thing to do is offer graceful blessings and walk away. But Ethan had been woven into the fabric of my life for too long, 10 whole years. My head knew what I should do, but my heart stubbornly refused to cooperate. My actions repeatedly betrayed my intentions. I still couldn't refuse him. When he'd say, "Chloe, the basketball team needs help with organizing today, can you come?" I'd reply, "Okay, I'll be there," without hesitation. When he asked, "Chloe, I want to buy Olivia a gift, can you help me choose?" My stomach would clench, but I'd still say, "Sure, I'll go." That drunken confession? We both pretended it never happened, burying it under layers of forced normalcy. But the wound in my heart refused to be forgotten, aching in the quiet moments. Late at night, alone in my dorm, memories would surface and tears would inevitably follow. Heaven knew how hard I had worked, how much I had dreamed, just to be at the same university as him. This was the first time I had loved someone so deeply, so completely. The agony of losing him felt like drowning. Just as I was finally steeling myself, gathering the strength to truly let go, the unexpected happened. They broke up. The story went that, shortly before their master's graduation, during an overseas alumni exchange program, Olivia met an alumnus who had settled in Australia. Apparently sparks flew instantly. A whirlwind romance ignited. Soon after, Olivia tossed her hair back, boarded a plane, and flew off to marry him, leaving Ethan behind without a second glance. Ethan, the ever-devoted follower, after 2 years of orbiting his goddess, was left completely adrift, heartbroken and bewildered. Olivia's manipulative green tea, as we called it, tendencies had always been subtly present, if you knew where to look. She excelled at false modesty. In public, she'd gush about how wonderful Ethan was to her, painting a picture of idyllic romance. But privately I'd witnessed her being demanding, almost imperious, treating him more like an assistant than a boyfriend. It always struck me that she didn't seem to genuinely love him, not the way he loved her. But in Ethan's eyes she remained perfect, his unattainable dream, his radiant moon. The day Olivia left the country, Ethan drank himself into oblivion. One by one, his friends eventually left the bar, until it was just him and me. I helped him stagger out, supporting his weight. Suddenly, he leaned in close, his movements clumsy, and kissed me. His lips were hot, tasting of alcohol and despair. "Olivia," he murmured against my mouth. I closed my eyes, a single tear escaping, tracing a path down my cheek. Part of me wanted to push him away, to scream that I wasn't her. But another weaker part, the part that had loved him for a decade, simply surrendered. I let myself feel his kiss, clinging to the bittersweet pain. At least, I thought with a pang of sorrow, my first real kiss was with Ethan, the boy I loved most in the world. Even if he thought I was someone else. I suspected Ethan had no memory of that drunken kiss the morning after. It was a blurry, alcohol-fueled moment born of heartbreak, easily erased from his conscious mind. And I, nursing my own complicated feelings, never brought it up. It felt like a fragile, painful secret I had to keep. But his breakup with Olivia? I confess, a selfish part of me rejoiced. It wasn't malicious joy at his pain, but the undeniable flicker of renewed hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for me now. My mother, possessing an uncanny maternal intuition, always asked about Ethan during our phone calls. "If he truly liked you, Chloe," she'd say bluntly, "you two would have been together years ago." I'd laugh it off, trying to sound breezy. "Mom, you know our family motto. Never give up, always press forward." But her words echoed my own deepest fears. After finishing my master's degree, Ethan moved to Beijing for a promising job opportunity. His breakup with Olivia had left him withdrawn and melancholic. So, I started splitting my time, shuttling back and forth between Shanghai and Beijing during my final year of studies. Each time I visited, I'd arrive laden with groceries, filling his fridge with his favorite foods. I'd clean his small apartment until it gleamed, organizing the clutter that accumulated in his bachelor life. He, in turn, would take me exploring on weekends. We wandered through the historic hutongs of Beijing, their ancient stones whispering stories, and visited scenic spots bathed in the capital's unique light. He loved photography. Conscious of my tendency to gain weight easily, I started skipping dinner most nights, meticulously maintaining my weight at around 45 kilograms. The irrational fear that I wouldn't look beautiful enough in his lens haunted me. Looking back, I think we did share a period of genuine happiness then. Those weekends felt hopeful, almost normal. Then, during my second year of grad school, perhaps moved by my decade of unwavering devotion, he finally made a public declaration. He posted a photo of me on his social media feed, a candid shot he'd taken during one of our outings. The caption read simply, "My little girl." Later that day he called. "Chloe," he said, his voice softer than usual, "let's be together. Officially." I was so ecstatic I nearly leaped off my top bunk bed. The relief and joy were overwhelming. I celebrated by treating my dorm mates to snacks and drinks for 3 days straight. My best friend Maya laughed, saying I looked like Fangine in the old story. Driven mad with joy after finally passing the imperial exams. Upon graduating, my supervising professor offered me an incredible opportunity, a chance to stay at the university as research staff. "There are only 2 spots for the entire university, Chloe," he'd emphasized, "and it comes with a coveted Shanghai residence permit." I barely hesitated. I turned it down almost immediately, because I had asked Ethan. He had made it clear he wouldn't move back to Shanghai. His career was taking off in Beijing. When you're young, love can feel like the entirety of existence. On the scale balancing career and romance, I consistently let love tip the scales. My professor was deeply disappointed. "Chloe," he sighed, shaking his head, "you have so much potential. But you're blinded by love, you foolish girl." He didn't understand. Ethan wasn't just a boy I loved. He was my childhood hero, the dream I chased for years, the light that had illuminated my world for a decade. I applied for a job at a media company in Beijing and was hired as a junior editor. I moved into the small apartment Ethan had bought. I thought this was it, the fairy tale ending. The prince and princess, finally living happily ever after. But life, of course, is rarely a fairy tale. It's messy, complicated, and often brutally real. Becoming Ethan's live-in girlfriend didn't magically grant me happiness. In fact, subtle cracks began to appear from the very first day I arrived in Beijing. Luggage heavy with belongings from my university life, I stepped onto the platform at Beijing South Railway Station, eagerly scanning the crowd, anticipating a warm hug, a welcoming smile. Instead, my phone buzzed. A WeChat message from Ethan. "Chloe, stuck in a meeting at work. Can you get home yourself?" Sitting alone in the back of the taxi, watching the unfamiliar cityscape flash by, I swallowed my disappointment. "It's okay," I told myself. "We'll finally be together every day. This is just a small hiccup." Shortly after starting my new job, I was given responsibility for a popular online book forum. It was a fantastic opportunity. Great resources, interesting content, but the main events and recordings happened in the evenings. I usually wouldn't finish until 10:30 p.m. The only reason a newcomer like me got such a prime assignment was because my senior colleagues were all mothers with young children. Our office was located in a somewhat remote area. One of my colleagues had a boyfriend who religiously picked her up every night. "It gets too late," he'd say. I worry. Witnessing their easy affection stung. My Ethan? He never even asked why I was getting home so late, let alone offer to pick me up. One evening, curled up beside him on the sofa, I tried to broach the subject playfully. "Ethan," I murmured, nudging him gently, "could you maybe pick me up from work sometimes? I get so jealous seeing my colleague get picked up every night." He barely looked up from his phone. "You're a grown woman, Chloe. You manage to get home just fine on your own, don't you?" His casual dismissal felt like a small paper cut, sharp and stinging. On my birthday, I decided to create a special evening. I spent hours cooking his favorite dishes, set the table nicely, and opened a bottle of red wine, hoping for a romantic celebration. He came home late from work, looking tired and preoccupied. Seeing the spread, he frowned slightly. "What's the occasion?" My heart sank. I understood he was busy, truly I did. But his obliviousness felt like a cold wave washing over me, highlighting the emotional distance that had crept between us. Tears pricked my eyes as I forced myself to eat the food I'd lovingly prepared. The only acknowledgement of the day came halfway through the silent meal. A mumbled, "Oh right. Happy birthday, Chloe." But the most difficult, most confusing part was the intimacy, or rather, the stark lack of it. We rarely touched. Wasn't physical affection a natural part of being in love? Shouldn't there be desire, closeness? My Ethan rarely initiated anything. It was almost always me, tentatively reaching out, suggesting, pleading. It gnawed at my self-esteem. I started to wonder if something was wrong with me. Was I not attractive enough? Did I do something wrong? Desperate, I even bought some risque lingerie, something completely out of character for me. One evening, heart pounding with nervousness and embarrassment, I put it on and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to look seductive. Ethan walked in, took one look at me and frowned, his brow furrowed in disapproval. "Chloe, what on earth are you wearing?" Without another word, he turned, walked out onto the small balcony, and lit a cigarette, leaving me sitting there feeling utterly foolish and exposed. My dignity felt like it had been trampled into the dust. Was he the abnormal one, or was I? I tried talking to him about it, about everything, the distance, the lack of affection, the feeling of being secondary. He'd brush it off, saying he wasn't keen on performative rituals or grand gestures. "Real life is about comfortable quiet, Chloe," he'd claimed. But I knew better. I hadn't forgotten the Ethan who dated Olivia for those years before she left. I had witnessed his passion firsthand. I knew he was capable of being incredibly attentive, showering a woman with affection and tenderness. I remembered him waking up early to buy Olivia her favorite breakfast and deliver it to her dorm. I remembered the elaborate, sweet surprises he planned for their anniversaries. He'd even asked for my help brainstorming ideas a few times. I'd seen them kissing openly on the street, oblivious to onlookers, their happiness radiating like a tangible force. So why was it completely different with me? Even a fool could see the truth. He didn't love me, not in the same way. Not really. My friend Maya put it bluntly during one of our calls. "Chloe, honey, it sounds like you're in a pseudo-relationship. All the labels, none of the substance." Despite the mounting disappointment, the constant ache in my chest, I kept trying. I doubled down on my efforts to be the perfect, undemanding girlfriend. Until the night of the reunion, the night my carefully constructed facade finally cracked. After that excruciatingly awkward dinner, Ethan and I walked home in strained silence. He walked quickly, several steps ahead, never looking back, never reaching for my hand. I couldn't help but remember how he used to walk with Olivia. Their hands always intertwined, his pace matching hers. "Ethan," I finally called out, my voice tighter than I intended. He stopped, turning slightly, silhouetted against a streetlight. "Don't you think you owe me an explanation?" He hesitated, shuffling his feet. "Chloe," he began, his voice low. "Olivia's back. I didn't know how to tell you. She got divorced." Hearing the news, I expected a fresh wave of panic, the familiar insecurity rearing its head. But strangely, I felt calm, almost detached. The past 6 months of living together, of quiet hurts and unmet needs, had eroded so much of my emotion, leaving behind a weary numbness. The bright-eyed boy who had once lived in my heart, my sunny hero Ethan, had slowly transformed. Now, thinking of him mostly brought a sigh, a sense of resignation. He didn't ask how I knew where to find him tonight, how I'd ended up at that restaurant. But I showed him the anonymous text message anyway, holding my phone up in the dim light. The pieces clicked into place. This evening hadn't been a coincidence. It felt orchestrated. And we both knew, without saying her name, who was likely pulling the strings. Olivia was back. And it was becoming increasingly clear she was back for Ethan. In the following weeks, Ethan came home later and later. To fill the lonely evenings, I started attending various workshops and language salons. Anything to keep my mind occupied. He never asked where I was going, and I learned to bite back my questions about his whereabouts. We existed in a state of fragile truce, the subject of Olivia hanging unspoken between us like a heavy curtain. I felt like I was living on borrowed time, bracing myself for the inevitable final judgment. One Saturday morning, Ethan was still asleep when his phone began ringing insistently, shattering the quiet apartment. I was in the kitchen just finishing making breakfast. Standing in the doorway of the bedroom, I watched as he answered, his brow furrowing deeper with each passing second. I knew instinctively who it was. Olivia was making her next move. He hung up, his face grim. He scrambled out of bed, throwing on clothes with frantic haste. "Where are you going?" I asked, blocking the doorway, my voice surprisingly steady. "Olivia's sick. She's in the hospital." He tried to sidestep me. "She's sick? Why would she call you?" I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze directly. Ethan paused, momentarily thrown. He probably wasn't expecting such directness from me, the girl who usually swallowed her feelings. "Chloe, she doesn't know many people in Beijing. I have to go." "No one? What about all those strangers we had dinner with the other night?" The sarcasm dripped from my words. "Chloe, don't be like this. I'm worried about her." "And what about me?" My voice cracked, the composure finally crumbling. "You're worried about her? Then what am I?" "Ethan, we've been together for a year and a half. Has there been a single day you've truly forgotten Olivia? Has there been one single day you've genuinely loved me?" Tears welled in my eyes, hot and blurring my vision. I stood my ground in the doorway, trembling slightly. "Chloe, can we talk about this when I get back? Olivia is really sick." He sounded exasperated. "Ethan, I can go help you take care of Olivia," I offered desperately, hating the pleading tone in my voice. "But you shouldn't go. You're not her boyfriend anymore. You're mine." "Chloe, don't be unreasonable." His voice hardened. With a sudden movement, he pushed past me, shoving me aside, and wrenched the door open. "Ethan, please," I choked out, the words barely audible, fueled by a rising panic. "Please don't go. I don't think I can hold on anymore if you walk out that door." He paused on the threshold, his back to me. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought he might turn around, say something, anything. Maybe even just hold me, offer some small comfort. But he didn't. Without a backward glance, he stepped out and walked away, leaving the door slightly ajar, the silence in the apartment deafening. After Ethan left, I sat on the sofa for a long time, staring blankly at the wall. I expected to shatter, to dissolve into hysterical tears. But the breakdown never came. There was just a hollow ache deep inside, a pain that made breathing feel difficult. Perhaps I couldn't cry anymore because I had already shed too many tears in secret over the past 6 months, mourning a relationship that was dying long before this final decisive blow. I looked around the small apartment, Ethan's apartment. It struck me then how little of it felt like mine. I had never truly settled, never truly made it my own. When I gathered my belongings, it was startlingly easy. Besides a suitcase of clothes and shoes, there was almost nothing else that belonged exclusively to me. Ethan's place was inconveniently far from my office. I had endured a grueling 1.5-hour subway commute each way, every single day, just to live with him. Remembering my earlier contingency planning, I pulled out my phone. A few days ago, sensing the inevitable end, I had discreetly looked at apartments in a complex much closer to work, only 30 minutes away. I hadn't realized I'd need one so soon. It all felt strangely preordained, yet also completely natural. You always know deep down the trajectory of your own relationship, even if you try to ignore the signs. Packing was swift and lacked any sense of ceremony. There wasn't much to pack. A single rideshare vehicle easily accommodated everything I owned. My life with Ethan fit into the trunk of a stranger's car. Luckily, the car was nice. A sleek white Cadillac pulled up to the curb. The driver looked about my age, friendly and energetic, hopping out immediately to help me with my suitcase. As soon as we pulled away, he started with the charm. "Hey, beautiful," he said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "Have we met somewhere before?" Seriously? I thought. Even my rideshare driver was hitting on me. Maybe I wasn't completely undesirable after all. Why did Ethan treat me like I was invisible? I glanced at the driver, unimpressed. "Wow," I said dryly. "That pickup line is practically vintage." We stopped at a red light. He took off his sunglasses, turning in his seat to look at me properly. He had warm, laughing eyes. Okay. But seriously, weren't you at that Japanese language salon a few weeks ago?" My mind flashed back. Stressed and needing a distraction from the Olivia situation, I had signed up for a casual Japanese conversation group. Had I really been so preoccupied that I hadn't noticed this incredibly handsome guy? "You even practiced dialogue with me," he persisted, a playful grin spreading across his face. You don't remember? I shook my head, drawing a blank. Is your name Chloe Tang? My eyes widened. Yes. How did you know? It was you, he exclaimed triumphantly. Huh. Then came the truly bizarre coincidence. It turned out he lived in the very same apartment complex I had just rented a place in. He even gallantly helped me carry my suitcase up to my new empty apartment. There was still a class divide, though he owned his place while I was just a humble renter. The next morning, heading out for work, I bumped into him right outside the building entrance. What a coincidence. Heading to work too? He asked brightly. Need a lift? How do you know where I work? We might be going in completely opposite directions. I know, he winked. You mentioned it in the car yesterday. Dewang Road, right? It's practically on my way. A wave of unease washed over me. Yesterday had been an emotional roller coaster. What else had I blurted out in my fragile state? What else did I say? I asked cautiously. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice conspiratorially. You said you just got dumped. Damn it. Heat flooded my face. I said that. Do you know what telling a guy you just got dumped implies? He turned towards me, his expression mock serious, while deftly helping me with my seatbelt, which I was fumbling with. Then a mischievous smile lit up his face. It means, hey, I'm available now. Feel free to ask me out. Being flirted with so openly felt like stepping into an entirely different movie. Yesterday was a tearjerker drama. Had the genre suddenly switched to romantic comedy overnight? I tried to regain my composure, rolling my eyes playfully. Well, maybe that's because I assumed I'd get out of the car and never see you again. Little did I know you were practically my neighbor. Through subsequent rides and bumped into each other moments, I learned his name was Sam, and he was a product manager. His office was in Yongganli, mine in Dewang Road. It genuinely was a convenient route for him, so the occasional ride felt plausible, less like a deliberate pursuit. He was a complete contrast to Ethan. Ethan, especially after Olivia had left him the first time, had become introverted, almost melancholic. Sam was confident, outgoing, and refreshingly direct. The immediate aftermath of a breakup is a breeding ground for loneliness. But being around Sam, there were never awkward silences. Whatever topic I brought up, he could engage with it, adding his own witty observations. The 30-minute drive often felt like it was over in a flash. I consciously allowed myself to accept his friendly gestures, his easy warmth acting as a balm on my bruised heart, filling the void Ethan had left. So, when he jokingly declared he couldn't keep being my chauffeur for free and demanded I treat him to dinner as payment, I agreed instantly. I didn't anticipate, however, that this would lead to yet another mortifyingly awkward social situation. Saturday morning. A time meant for leisurely enjoying sunshine and snacks. Instead, I found myself locked in a desperate battle with my toilet. A rather substantial deposit had decided to stage a protest, refusing to be flushed away. After several futile attempts, it bobbed back up defiantly. Just as I was contemplating my next move, gagging slightly at the unpleasantness, my doorbell rang. Opening the door revealed Sam, holding a bag full of fresh vegetables, clearly intending to make good on the dinner invitation. Before I could even utter a warning, he dropped the grocery bag with a thud. Quick, quick. Gotta use your bathroom, urgent. Before I could react, he bolted past me and disappeared into the bathroom. Oh God, no. My face flushed crimson. This was utterly humiliating. My life was over. Seconds later he emerged, face equally red, brow furrowed in disgust. He practically fled my apartment without a word. In that moment I seriously considered finding a new planet to live on. But then, 10 minutes later, he reappeared at my door, holding a plunger. He marched back into my bathroom, and with a few determined shoves, the stubborn blockage cleared. The toilet flushed with a satisfying gurgle. I stared at him, utterly astonished by his competence. He looked young, drove a fancy car. Maybe not super rich, but definitely comfortable. He didn't exactly scream handyman capable of tackling plumbing disasters. Chatting afterwards, I learned his parents worked abroad, and he'd been living alone since high school. Practical life skills, he explained with a shrug, were born out of necessity. So, Miss Chloe, he said, leaning against the doorframe with a smirk, drying his hands. How are you going to thank your knight in shining armor? First, wash your hands thoroughly, I retorted, wrinkling my nose. Hey, I wasn't grossed out by your mess and now you're grossed out by me? He feigned offense, peering at me with puppy dog eyes as he scrubbed his hands at the kitchen sink. Seeing as you bought all these groceries, I offered, gesturing towards the abandoned bag. How about I cook for you? He grinned. Okay, make me some noodles. Huh. I bought pasta, he clarified, holding up a package of spaghetti. Italian noodles. Damn it. His wordplay always caught me off guard. And so, I found myself attempting to make pasta carbonara in my tiny kitchen. Still flustered from the earlier bathroom fiasco, my hand slipped while slicing bacon. A sharp pain, a startled ah! And Sam was instantly by my side. He expertly found my first aid kit, cleaned the small cut, and applied a bandage. Then he gently steered me towards the sofa. Sit. Relax. I'll take over. Maybe we should just order takeout? I mumbled, feeling incredibly embarrassed and useless. Nonsense. We bought all this stuff. Let the master chef handle it, he declared, rolling up his sleeves. Can you even cook? I asked skeptically, picturing burnt pasta and questionable sauce. But I was quickly proven wrong. Sam, it turned out, was a surprisingly adept cook. He whipped up a delicious, authentic-looking Italian meal. We even opened a bottle of red wine he'd brought. A toast, he said, raising his glass, to celebrating you moving into my neighborhood. Welcome, neighbor. Having spent so long being the caregiver, the one who always put in the effort, it felt incredibly strange, almost unbelievable, to have a man cook a meal for me. But it was real. And honestly, it felt really good. Our connection deepened further during a work trip I had to take to Shanghai. Because I had an interview scheduled for Monday, I needed to stay over the weekend. On Saturday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Sam. After confirming my hotel address, he simply said, "Stay put." Half an hour later, he appeared in the lobby of my hotel. Combined with the fact that he often gave me rides, my colleagues quickly jumped to conclusions. Seeing him suddenly appear in Shanghai cemented their belief that he was my boyfriend. Wow, Chloe, one teased. Couldn't even handle being apart for a week, huh? My colleagues politely excluded me from their weekend plans, leaving me to entertain my unexpected guest. Since I knew Shanghai well from my university days, I took Sam sightseeing, exploring familiar streets and hidden gems. That evening, standing on the Bund, the glittering skyline reflected in the Huangpu River, the air filled with the buzz of the crowd and a gentle breeze, Sam moved closer. He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. Chloe, he whispered, his voice low and serious. You've noticed, haven't you? That I really like you. My cheeks flushed instantly. His sudden, direct confession caught me completely off guard. My heart hammered against my ribs. I just broke up with someone. I stammered, feeling flustered. He gently turned me around and pulled me into a soft hug from behind, resting his chin on top of my head. He placed a light kiss on my hair. It's okay, he murmured reassuringly. I can wait. Those words echoed strangely. Weren't they the very words I had silently told myself for years, waiting for Ethan? Just as my tentative relationship with Sam was blossoming, gaining warmth and momentum, Ethan reappeared, wanting to apologize. Like most weekdays, Sam dropped me off after work, a comfortable routine settling in. I had only been home for a short while when a frantic knocking rattled my door. Assuming it was Sam, maybe having forgotten something or planning another playful antic, I opened the door without checking. Standing there, however, was Ethan, his brow deeply furrowed, his eyes stormy. Ethan, what are you doing here? I asked, completely stunned. Who were you expecting? He shot back, his voice laced with a disappointment I couldn't comprehend. Where did he get off looking disappointed? Before I could process, he moved swiftly, backing me into the apartment, pinning me against the wall. His mouth crashed down on mine in a hard, demanding kiss, completely ignoring my struggles to push him away. How long has it been? He muttered against my lips, his kiss turning possessive, almost angry. Couldn't even wait, could you? So eager to find someone new? Are you really that desperate for company? His hand snaked under my shirt, fumbling with the clasp of my bra. If this had been the old Ethan, the attentive Ethan I had once dreamed of, perhaps I would have welcomed this sudden surge of passion, despite its roughness. But now? After everything? What did he think I was? A toy he could pick up and discard at will? Anger surged through me, hot and fierce. I shoved him hard, biting his lip until he finally pulled back, surprise flickering in his eyes. I glared at him, breathing heavily, tasting blood, his or mine I wasn't sure. The man standing before me looked like Ethan but felt like a stranger. "Get out," I said, my voice shaking with fury. I stalked to the door and yanked it open. "I don't want to see you." "Who was that guy who dropped you off just now?" he demanded, ignoring my command. "Were you following me?" The thought was chilling. I couldn't believe Ethan would stoop to that. "I went to your office to pick you up," he said, his voice tight. "And I saw you laughing, getting into someone else's car like you didn't have a care in the world. Why would you pick me up?" I retorted bitterly. "Go pick up Olivia. Chloe." He took a step towards me again, his expression softening slightly. I instinctively recoiled, taking several steps back. The raw hurt that flashed in his eyes was unmistakable. "Chloe, come back," he pleaded, his voice suddenly thick with emotion. "These past 2 months, I've thought about you every single day. I kept thinking you'd just get over being angry and come home. I can't live without you, Chloe." My carefully constructed walls, the tentative healing I had begun, felt like they were being ripped apart all over again. Tears I thought I'd suppress streamed down my face. A decade of suppressed longing and recent pain crashed over me, shattering my composure. My heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. But through the tears, a cold clarity emerged. "You missed me." I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "You missed me so much you couldn't even send a single text? Not one phone call in 2 months? Ethan, do you think I'm a naive 3-year-old? "Chloe." He stepped forward again, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box, flipping it open to reveal a sparkling diamond ring. "Marry me. I've thought it through this time. I know what I want. Marrying Ethan. It had once been my ultimate dream. I'd imagined this moment countless times, romantic dinners, heartfelt proposals under starry skies. Never like this. Never amidst accusations, forced kisses, and the wreckage of our past. "Ethan," I said, my voice regaining some strength, "we can't go back." I practically shoved him out the door, slamming it shut behind him. He pounded on the door, calling my name, but I refused to open it. I leaned against the wood, sobbing uncontrollably. After what felt like an eternity, the knocking stopped. Then a different, deeper voice called out softly, "Chloe? It's me, Sam. Open the door." When I finally opened the door, Sam saw my tear-streaked face, my red-rimmed eyes. He didn't ask questions, just gently guided me to the sofa. Sam stayed with me for a long time that night, patiently listening as I poured out the whole tangled story of my decade-long history with Ethan. The hopes, the hurts, the confusion. I cried until I was exhausted, and he just sat there in silence, a steady, comforting presence beside me. In the days that followed, Ethan launched a campaign to win me back, enlisting many of our mutual friends as reluctant messengers. From their fragmented accounts, I pieced together the rest of the story. Olivia's life overseas with the older alumnus hadn't been the fairy tale she'd expected. Her new husband was constantly busy traveling, frequently for work. Lonely and apparently unwilling to tolerate being neglected, Olivia had an affair and ended up pregnant. Her husband, upon discovering the infidelity, immediately demanded a divorce, essentially throwing her out. That's when Olivia returned to China, her primary goal being to win back Ethan, the reliable backup plan she had discarded so carelessly years ago. The ex-husband, assuming Ethan must have been the other man all along, even called Ethan furious, demanding to know why he would break up their marriage. It was only then that Ethan learned the real reasons behind Olivia's divorce and sudden return. The story Olivia had been spinning about suffering complications after an abortion forced on her by an abusive ex-husband, resulting in various health issues, was a carefully constructed lie designed to elicit sympathy. Knowing the truth that the goddess he had worshipped for years was, in fact, a manipulative liar, left Ethan utterly stunned and disillusioned. During the months I had been gone, Ethan hadn't gotten back together with Olivia, despite her efforts. He had spent numerous nights drinking with friends, apparently calling out my name in his drunken stupors. He confessed to them how empty the apartment felt without me, how every corner seemed to hold my shadow, reminding him of what he'd lost. He told them he finally realized his lingering feelings for Olivia weren't love, but rather a stubborn refusal to accept being abandoned, a bruised ego. He admitted he now knew who was truly important to him, but felt he'd lost the right, the face, to approach me again. That is, until he saw the photos I'd posted from my Shanghai trip. including a couple of casual group shots where Sam happened to be standing next to me. The sight jolted him. The realization that I might actually move on, that someone else could be in my life, sparked a primal fear. He understood, perhaps for the first time, that I wouldn't wait forever. Remembering my past complaints about him never picking me up, he'd bought flowers and the ring, driving to my office with the intention of making a grand gesture. He arrived just in time to see me laughing, happily climbing into Sam's car. He followed them, his heart sinking, discovering my new address and confirming his worst fears. The Chloe he thought would always be there, the girl who had loved him unconditionally despite his neglect, might truly be slipping away. "Chloe," one of Ethan's friends asked gently after relaying the story, "do you think there's any chance for you and Ethan?" I shook my head, managing a small sad smile. I took a long gulp of beer, the cold liquid hitting my stomach, mirroring the turmoil churning inside me. "No," I said softly but firmly. "Life is full of missed connections, paths diverging. You might think these are accidents, random twists of fate. But often, they're the inevitable result of choices made, of personalities clashing, of refusing to see what's right in front of you until it's too late. Perhaps it's mostly about the tragedies woven into our very characters." With Ethan finally receding into the past, I had a new situation to navigate. Sam. After witnessing my complete emotional breakdown, that night, he had gone completely silent. A whole week passed with no calls, no texts, no accidental bumps in the hallway. My anxiety grew. Had I scared him off? Did he think I was still hopelessly hung up on my ex? After agonizing over it, I finally sent him a simple text. "Hey." Less than a minute later, he was at my door, slightly out of breath, as if he'd run up the stairs. "Finally decided you miss me?" he teased, stepping inside, his usual playful grin back in place, though his eyes held a hint of uncertainty. I looked down, suddenly shy. "Chloe," he said, his voice softening, "you almost drove me crazy this past week. I was so worried you'd go back to him." I started, then faltered. "Don't hesitate like that," he interrupted gently but firmly. "If you don't say what you're feeling and I guess wrong, that's how misunderstandings happen." His directness was still startling, so different from the careful, hesitant dance I used to do with Ethan. With Ethan, I had become overly cautious, afraid to express my true opinions, even about something as simple as ordering food. I'd always say whatever's fine, not because I didn't care, but because I was afraid my choice wouldn't align with his preference. I used to love spicy chicken feet, but Ethan disliked the smell in the apartment, so I stopped eating them entirely, terrified of displeasing him. Years of prioritizing his needs over my own had made it incredibly difficult to articulate my own desires, my true self. "Chloe," Sam asked softly, searching my eyes, "do you like me?" Before I could form the words, his lips were on mine, warm and insistent. The world seemed to melt away, leaving only the sound of our breathing, the rapid beat of my heart. It felt electric, completely different from any kiss I'd shared with Ethan. Every cell in my body felt alive, awakened. We kissed again and again in my small living room, embraced tightly. I felt his passion, his need, but also his respect. It was intoxicating. I adored this feeling, being wanted, being seen. Later, curled up on the sofa, I asked him what he liked about me. He said he'd noticed me the first time he saw me in the Japanese class. He couldn't quite explain it, just a feeling, an attraction. He just liked me. And just like that, we were together. He drove me to and from work every day. For my late-night recording sessions once a week, he never failed to be there waiting, no matter how late it got. Weekends became ours, browsing grocery stores hand in hand, exploring different parts of the city, then coming home to cook together. Except he always did the cooking. He'd playfully banish me from the kitchen, telling me to just relax and wait to be served. And the intimacy? It was a world away from my experience with Ethan. Sam was affectionate, passionate, often pulling me close, seemingly never getting enough. Yet, he was always attuned to my cues, respectful of my boundaries. If I wasn't in the mood, he never pushed. It was a revelation. Someone who doesn't truly love you can make you feel worthless, like a weed to be ignored. But someone who genuinely loves you, they cherish you, make you feel like a princess. I finally understood what love was supposed to feel like. It wasn't about sacrifice and self-negation. It was about equality, confidence, relaxation. Being together should make both people better, happier, not worn down and insecure. Even though I had a new boyfriend, Ethan didn't give up immediately. One Saturday afternoon, Sam and I were lounging on my sofa, watching a movie, when Ethan showed up unannounced. The atmosphere instantly turned thick with awkward tension. I froze, unsure how to handle the situation. Sam, however, reacted smoothly. He stood up, putting a casual arm around my waist. "Can I help you?" he asked Ethan politely, but with an unmistakable air of possessiveness. "Are you here to see my girlfriend?" I saw Ethan's face darken, his jaw tightening. "I need to talk to Chloe." "Alone," Ethan said, addressing Sam but looking at me. In my apartment, my ex-boyfriend was trying to dismiss my current boyfriend. The audacity was almost comical. "There's no need for alone," I spoke up, surprising even myself with my firmness. Ethan looked taken aback. "Anything you need to say to her, you can say to me," Sam added calmly. "Chloe's told me everything. Honestly, man, the only person you've ever really loved is yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today trying to disrupt her happiness." Sam gave my shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "I'll be downstairs if you need me. Call me." Then he walked out, leaving me alone with Ethan. His trust, his willingness to let me handle this on my own despite his clear protectiveness, impressed me deeply. After Sam left, I let Ethan come inside, gesturing towards the sofa. I poured him a cup of coffee, needing something to do with my hands. "Olivia went back to Australia," Ethan said finally, breaking the heavy silence. "Oh," I nodded, acknowledging the information without reacting further. "Chloe, she's gone now. You don't have to worry about her anymore," he continued, his voice earnest. "Can you please give me another chance? Just one more chance? I swear I'll make up for everything." "Ethan," I began, choosing my words carefully. For the longest time, I thought Olivia was the biggest obstacle between us. But these past few months with Sam, they've shown me what a healthy relationship feels like, how comfortable it should be. Olivia wasn't the main problem, Ethan. We were the problem. Our dynamic. "I wasn't happy with you." "That was my fault," he insisted quickly. "I didn't treat you right. I know that now. I can change, Chloe. I will change." "It wasn't just your fault," I countered gently. "It was mine too. From the very beginning, our relationship was unequal. You got used to me giving everything and I got used to giving everything. That kind of dynamic. It made me feel insecure, exhausted. It wore me down. Then let me be the one to give now," he pleaded, his eyes desperate. "Let me take care of you." I took a deep breath and looked him straight in the eye. "Ethan," I said, the words clear and final, "I don't love you anymore." His eyes widened, filled with a kaleidoscope of shock, confusion, disbelief, and raw pain. It was the exact same expression I remembered seeing on my own face, reflected in a shop window years ago, right after I first saw him holding hands with Olivia. What goes around comes around. The universe has its own way of balancing the scales. You can't expect someone to wait forever in the ruins you created. Letting go, truly letting go this time, was perhaps the kindest thing he could do. After that day, Ethan and I had no further contact. He finally disappeared from my life. My relationship with Sam continued to grow, deepening into something steady and strong. Of course, we had occasional disagreements, moments of friction like any couple. But Sam always took the initiative to bridge the gap. Sometimes it was a hug, sometimes a simple, "I'm sorry," sometimes a small, thoughtful gift. We traveled together, exploring new places. He meticulously planned the itineraries, yet somehow every destination, every activity, perfectly matched my interests, things I'd only mentioned in passing conversation. Communication felt easy, open. I felt comfortable enough to playfully pout if he occasionally forgot a minor anniversary, knowing he'd immediately produce a cleverly hidden gift, claiming he just wanted me to have the satisfaction of reminding him. I found myself becoming bolder, more confident. Even Maya commented on it during one of our calls. "Wow, Chloe," she'd said. "You've really found your voice. You know what you want now." 2 years after we started dating, during the spring festival holiday, bowing to my mother's persistent requests, I brought Sam home to meet my parents. He filled the trunk of his car with an almost embarrassing amount of gifts. He was a bundle of nerves the entire drive, muttering about how 2 years of hard work culminates today. Initially shy and slightly awkward, Sam quickly bonded with my father after sharing a bottle of Moutai liquor. By the end of the evening, they were laughing loudly, calling each other brother. I dreaded seeing Sam's face the next morning when he sobered up and realized he'd spent half the night calling his potential father-in-law Big Bro. Later that evening, I went to the kitchen fridge to grab a drink. Inside, I noticed several packages of spicy chicken feet. The exact brand I used to love. Confused, I grabbed a bag. "Mom," I asked casually, "you guys don't eat spicy food. Why did you buy these?" "Oh," my mother replied nonchalantly, busy washing dishes. "Ethan stopped by a few days ago to say hello. He brought those, said you used to love them." I froze, the small bag suddenly heavy in my hand. "You know," my mother continued thoughtfully, oblivious to my inner turmoil, "I think Ethan might still be waiting for you. But this Sam, I like him too. He seems like a genuinely good guy, very cheerful. There's a certain type of personality," I reflected, "that excels at self-pity, getting trapped in their own emotional narratives. Like Ethan. First, with Olivia, now seemingly with me. Forever looking back, unable to face their own flaws, and therefore incapable of cherishing the present. And thinking back, I realized I had been like that too in my own way. A decade spent as a doormat, chasing an illusion. But finally, after 10 long years, I understood what real love felt like. And more importantly, I had finally truly walked away from the past and into my own brighter future.